Welcome everyone to our Tuesday talk. I'm Michael Robinson, the career coach here at Easter Seals Veteran Staffing Network, VSN for short. I'll be your host and presenter. In this session, we're discussing how to research an employer. But before we talk about that, I'd like to take a moment to cover some housekeeping items. This session will last approximately 45 minutes with a live 15-minute Q&A session at the end. If you have any questions before then, just type those into the chat box. I'll break periodically to address them if I see a lot being chatted. Lastly, let us know how we're doing by filling out the survey at the end of today's session. Here's a little bit about me. I am a retired Marine with a majority of my post-military career having been in HR. I've held positions as a hiring manager, recruiter, and career counselor. In my previous position, I worked exclusively with military members moving into the civilian workforce as an employment facilitator, part of the Transition Assistance Program. During that time, I taught more than 100 workshops to over 2,000 transitioning service members. The VSN staff understands the employment challenges that veterans and military spouses face because we are veterans and military spouses too. We've matched over 2,700 qualified candidates with employers to fill temporary to permanent, contract, and direct hire positions. The fees from those placements are then reinvested into the coaching services, allowing the VSN to have coached more than 15,000 veterans, wounded warriors, and military spouses. And that leads me to where I fit in. Our career coaching just isn't about helping people land a new job. It's about helping people discover what they need in work to be truly happy and contribute meaningfully so that hopefully they're not looking for work for a very, very long time. Our process is to help people find clarity by understanding the core aspects of the employment process, which you see here on the slide. Then they can take control of their job search and reach those career goals. As such, we can help you craft an effective job search strategy. One strategy is how to research a company before you hit the apply button. Researching companies before you apply to a job is one of the most fundamental aspects of the job search process. However, many job seekers fail to do this and often apply to positions that are not a good fit for them. Common reasons that I hear as a career coach is they just don't have time to, or they don't know what to research, or there's just so much information, they don't know what to do with it. Today, we're going to sort out this information for you to further your career or job search strategy, beginning with reasons to research a company. Now, there are many reasons to research a company, and here are just a few. Firstly, you'll gain a better understanding of the job that you're interested in and the company. Additionally, you will be able to better tailor the resume and cover letter for that specific role and to meet that company's needs. More importantly, you'll be able to address your cover letter or your email or any correspondence that you have to someone in that company by doing your research. And it also helps networking because you'll be able to expand your network within that company, and it'll be more targeted to the industry that you are looking to work in or that you're trying to gain entry into. Definitely will help in the salary research because that becomes more relevant with the more information that you have. If you just start out with the broad information in your salary research, well, then you're going to get broad numbers. And we want to be a little bit more targeted with our salary. If we are afforded an opportunity for an interview and they ask us, well, what are you looking for in terms of salary? We want to give a response that's going to be within reason for that particular role in that company. lastly, it definitely prepares you for the interview process, because by having that better understanding of the position and the company, you have a leg up on the competition that doesn't do any research on the company. So you're able to address questions more effectively, match your knowledge, skills, and abilities to the role more effectively. And then there's a number of ways that you can conduct this research. One of those is, well, the simplest reason or way is to and there are a number of ways to research a company. To begin with, the simplest way is to check the official website. Pretty simple, right? You'd be amazed at how many people fail to do that. Then definitely take a look at the social media presence that the organization has, or the lack thereof. That would be something that you may want to take note of. Now, some companies are conservative, so their social media presence might not necessarily be as big as others. It never hurts to take a look at it, because that's going to give you some insight into that company. And then definitely take a look at the Google results. What kind of results are coming back? Are they mostly positive, or are they negative? And these are going to be important as we go through the research process. Then analyze those reviews from the customers that they deal with and former employees or current employees. And we'll discuss this a little bit further as we go through the session, but this is going to be very important. And then look at the public information that's available. You don't need to dig in, like you're an investigative reporter. General information is going to be good enough for the purposes that you are going to use it for, which is obviously to see if that organization is a fit, prepare you for the interview, and then to make that informed decision on whether or not this is going to be a good fit for you as far as the company is concerned. And then, of course, ask your network, especially if you have connections with those professionals that work in the organization that you are looking to enter into. Before we go and dive headfirst into the research, we probably want to define what type of company we want to work for. So understanding that information is really, really important, because without defining it, then we're just, again, applying to positions without really understanding what we're looking for. And I usually take people that I coach through a series of questions that often they don't think about. And here's those questions. Describe the ideal company that you want to work for. And this is, give it a name. And I'm not talking about some fictitious made up company. I'm talking about real companies. If you can't name a real company, that's fine. Many of us, the first time we go through this whole process, well, we've never really thought about it, so we don't. However, you should be able to know what you can offer that ideal company and what it can offer you. Keep in mind, when you are hired by a company, there's an exchange. You are providing your knowledge, skills, and abilities to that company to fulfill that position. And in turn, they're paying you a compensation, base salary, and benefits. So there's an exchange there. Obviously, if one is lopsided, then somebody's going to be it's not going to be a good fit for the employer or for that person. So you want to think about, well, what can I contribute? And then again, what can that company give me that's going to benefit me and make my life better? Think about what kind of culture you want to work in, what kind of environment. And I meet people all the time that say, Michael, all I care about is fishing. I work so that I can, get money so they can go fish. That's fine if that is how your work environment. You'll need to also think about what kind of company culture do you want to work in? What kind of environment? This is very important because even though you might be one of those individuals that say, I really like to work alone. I don't really associate with my coworkers. Well, if you enter into a position that requires a lot of collaboration and there's that's expected, that's probably not going to be a good fit for you. So think about that. Think about what kind of culture you would like to enter into. Outline your perfect workday. And many people say, well, Michael, my perfect workday is that I don't go to work. I get paid to do nothing, but that's unrealistic. So you'll need to outline what your perfect workday would look like. And we want to do this so that when we're looking for these organizations and we're inquiring and we're looking and we're seeing all this information, what are their work hours? Is it flexible work hours? Is it flexible schedule? What type of work? And you want to think about everything from the type of clothes that you're wearing to the end of the day. What time do you get off? So lay it all out there. And more importantly, we would want to make sure we do a self-assessment of our needs. And I'm going to take you through this next session, and we're going to focus on looking at our work personality. And what that really is understanding how our personality fits in the workplace. So Dr. John Holland developed a theory called the Rizek Code, and it's also named the Holland's theory, that people prefer to work in environments with other people that are similar to them. So think about this. We like to be around people that are pretty similar to us. And according to John Holland, Dr. John Holland, we exhibit a combination of 2 or 3 types of personalities in the workplace. And as you can see here in this hexagon, you have on the outside, realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. So those are the type of personalities. And that's the first letter of each of those words develop the code of Rizek. And I'll get into that here in a few moments. The relationship between the names or the personalities in the hexagon show which are closer to one another. For example, conventional, realistic, and investigative are very, very close to one another. But if you see and you look at realistic and social, or the doers and the helpers, they are across from one another. So they are furthest apart. So if you ever think about if you're having personality conflicts with someone, it might be because of this. And it doesn't mean that you can't get along. It just means that your work styles are different. So we'll dive into this a little bit deeper here in a moment. The personality types that we are going to talk about also reflect our interest in what we like to do. For example, the R, or realistic, the doers. These are individuals that like hands-on activities. These are the practical problem-solving type of people that like to develop solutions to physical things. Generally, they avoid activities like teaching or healing and informing others. And then they're really good at working with their hands, tools, machinery, and with animals as well. What they value are work conditions. Basically, they like working outside and they don't like working with a whole lot of paperwork, believe it or not. So they see themselves as practical, honest, and authentic. The investigative types, these individuals are very intellectual. So they like working with ideas that require a extensive amount of thinking. And they generally avoid those type of activities such as leading, selling, or trying to persuade others. So if you want to think about these individuals are bookworms, as for lack of better word. However, they are very good at understanding and solving science and math problems. So that's going to be their cup of tea, is really diving in to scientific and math type situations. They value achievement, not necessarily being the first one in a race, but their achievement in actually solving real world problems that involve facts and figures. So they see themselves as practical, precise, scientific, and intellectual. Now we're going to look at the artistic individuals. So the A types, well, they like working with forms and designs. These individuals are good with their artistic ability. They generally avoid highly repetitious kind of environment. So they're not going to be very good doing the same thing over and over again. So they like definitely like variety. They have good creative thinking. So they're going to be the drama, arts and crafts, and musical type of individuals. They value their independence and self-expression, and they work well without a set of standard rules. So they see themselves as expressive, original, and self-sufficient. Moving to the S types. Well, these individuals are kind of like your social butterflies. They are involved and work with a lot of communication and working and teaching people. Generally, they avoid machines, tools, and working with animals. And they're really good in counseling others and caring for others. So nurses and customer service roles are going to be very, very a good fit for these type of individuals. They value relationships more than anything else, and helping others or providing services is where they best are suited. And they see themselves as being helpful, friendly, and trustworthy. The E types, well, these are your entrepreneur types. They are high energy. They like, think about your startups where individuals, they're business minded, focused, and they like carrying out projects. They generally avoid things that require a deep observation, scientific, or analytical thinking. And then they're really good at leading others, persuading people. So you think of these individuals in sales or other types of business that involve the selling of ideas. They value recognition. Success in politics, leadership, and business is where they're going to be most suited. And then they see themselves as energetic and ambitious and very, very social. The C types, these individuals, the conventional, these are your organizers, and they like following a set standards or procedures, and they work very well with data, details, and records. Generally, they avoid ambiguous situations where they're or unstructured activities. They are really good with working with numbers and in a systematic and orderly way. they value support and a clear line of authority. So a lot of procedures and a lot of rules, they feel comfortable with following those. They see themselves as orderly and good at following a set plan. So that is the Risic work personality types. And where you can find it at, the Department of Labor has an interest assessment, which you can find at ONET. And if you just type into your Google or Bing or whichever platform you'll use, ONET Interest Profiler, it will give you the link to the Department of Labor's interest assessment. It only takes 10 to 30 minutes to complete, depending on your pace. And once you complete this, you'll get your scores of your personality traits. And usually the top 3 of those traits are going to be the most dominant. Now, it's not uncommon that you will have 2 that are pretty close, or if not equally the same. Nonetheless, the highest scoring one will usually be the most dominant. Once we have assessed our personality, our work personality type, we'll want to take a hard look at what we value in work. So we have intrinsic and extrinsic values. Those are the 2 buckets in which values are grouped in. So your intrinsic could be challenging work, interesting work. It's about learning new things. So really, these are the things that you internally value for you to work effectively. Your extrinsic values are what you received externally. So that high pay, the type of job security, time off with family, that PTO, and then of course, time for your hobbies and things of that nature. So really, it's the internal, what you value internally that's going to make you feel good. And then externally, what are you receiving from that external source that is something you're going to strive for. In talking about the value, what you find valuable in work, one of those is going to be the type of culture that you are going to best be suited for. Looking at culture, some cornerstones of corporate culture, and there are many organizations that have many different words that they use in their corporate culture, but generally speaking, these are going to be at the core. That's going to be collaboration, and that's focused on teamwork and working together for common goals. If, again, you're that lone wolf type and an organization touts about collaboration, well, that's going to be an indicator that you're going to spend probably a significant amount of time working closely with others. So you have to keep these in consideration and in perspective. Accountability. Well, this is a major deal because they are holding people responsibility for their behavior and their actions. So a company that overlooks wrongdoing by managers or by people that they deem as favorites, that's not an accountable organization. Equity in an organization emphasizes equality and fairness across the board. So it doesn't matter who you are, what your skin tone is like, whether you're male, female, or undecided, it doesn't matter. Everybody should be treated the same in that organization. Communication emphasizes transparent dialogue between coworkers, management, and employees or staff, bottom-up communication, top-down communication. Many organizations strive for this, where they are very transparent in how their business runs, et cetera, et cetera. So that's maybe one thing that you find valuable in an organization. Recognition emphasizes acknowledgement of individual achievements or team achievements. So this is one of those when organizations use rewards and awards for individuals that are doing outstanding work. And a lot of times organizations kind of gloss over this and, hey, yeah, you did a great job, but do they really acknowledge, that individual for what they contribute to that organization? So think about those things when we talk about culture. Generally speaking, corporate cultures are lumped into 4 buckets. You have the clan, adhocracy, market, and hierarchy. Clan, well, their relationship, more that family kind of environment. Adhocracy, these are these are companies that depend on individual actions in order for them to be successful. So it's going to be highly individualized performance and recognition. So think about your sales type environments, et cetera, et cetera. Market, these are result driven. So think about your startups where this is highly competitive. They're competing against others in their industry, and they're trying to make a name for themselves. So it's going to be high energy, lots of long hours, but the reward is success in that business. And then lastly, think of hierarchy. So if adhocracy is kind of that individualistic contributions to the organization's success, hierarchy is that bureaucracy. So there's a lot of red tape, rules, and regulations, and it's very structured. So think of your organizations such as GE, Ford, where these are traditionally structured organizations, and it's not based off of individual actions, it's based off of departments or team actions. Now, there's a lot of different type of spinoffs as far as culture is concerned, but these are generally the 4 basic types of corporate culture. From here, I'd like to move into how we actually start doing the research. So where do we begin? The company website, as I mentioned before. Go immediately to the About Us section. And what you're going to learn are just the general basics of that organization, the products, the services, what it does. This basic information will give you a little bit of insight as to if this is going to be an organization that you are going to be interested in. Now, there's further resources that you can dig into, which we're going to talk about. But if you're just going to do the basics, you'll get the basic information from here. And size and location of the company, whether it's public or private, that's going to be important, again, in your salary research, et cetera, et cetera. From the About Us page, they usually have a company mission. So this is important because it defines what the current state of that company is. What is the purpose behind that organization? So every organization has to have a purpose. It has to serve the public in some form or fashion, or it wouldn't be in business very, very long. You have to think about this. So what does the organization do that benefits the general society? So you want to look at that, and it explains the core competencies, what this organization is good at. And every organization, to be competitive, has to have a differentiator from the other types of companies. And that's where the core competencies come in. And if you understand these, then you're going to have the edge in the interview, because now you can speak directly to how you can contribute to that those core competencies. Along with the mission statement, and sometimes it might be combined, is the vision statement. So This might be a sentence that is at the end of the mission, or it could be a separate statement. What this does, it talks about the future or the goal of that organization. What does that organization, where does that organization want to be in 5 to 10 years? So this gives the future state of the company and the ideal image of what that company wants to look like in the end of 5 or 10 years. Next, you'll have the values of that company. We talked about our values as a person and as a worker or an employee in a work environment. Does the company share the same values that we do? So these are common company values. So you have autonomy, integrity, innovation, service, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we talked about equity before. This D, E, and I is very, very, very important in this day and age. And companies are touting their diversity. So you'll have to take a look at how the company is actually exercising their diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if an organization is talking about autonomy, they are probably one of those organizations, and you think back to the 4 type of cultures that I talked about, they're probably really dependent on individual actions for the success of that organization. If they talk about collaboration, that's probably going to be your market kind of environment, your clan type of environment. So just keep those in perspective. From there, you'll probably want to take a look at that organizational history. How long have they been in business? This, past performance usually is indicative of future performance. Keep that in mind. So if they've been doing really well, they'll probably continue doing well. Are they growing, downsizing, or laying off employees? This is important. How have they done this over a period of time? Because companies, they expand and they shrink. For example, down here in Newport News, Virginia, we have the Newport News shipyard. And every 3 to 4 years, they usually have a large layoff because one of the contracts ends. And until they have another contract, they lay off a lot of people that were working on that one contract. And then a year or two later, they'll do a mass hiring. And a lot of those people that were laid off end up going back to the shipyard to work. So keep that in mind. What is that kind of history, or do they have a pattern of layoffs and rehires or downsizing or expanding? Definitely take a look at the news, research that information. Are they in legal trouble or financial trouble? Have they been there? Have they done so before? If so, have they recovered, et cetera, et cetera? These are all important pieces of information that you'll want to know. Then, of course, research the benefits that the company provides. Oftentimes, the job listings or job postings will have a snapshot of that. Company websites will have something that's similar. If they have special benefits or fringe benefits, research the employee benefits that the company provides. Oftentimes, job postings will have a snapshot of what they offer as well as the company website. You can look at online reviews. These online reviews usually will talk about either things that they don't have, that people wish they had, or they talk about good things that the organization has, such as probably child care reimbursement, tuition assistance, pet insurance if you're a pet person. So really trying to figure out what that company offers that makes them a little bit unique, and does that align with your needs? Speaking of online review sites, there are quite a few of those out there. Here's Indeed. Indeed offers quite a bit of information. I would recommend you using multiple sites because they tend to offer tidbits of different information. For example, Indeed offers a culture scale, and many sites don't necessarily do that. So you'll find that you can get tidbits of information from different sites. Let's look at Vault. If you never heard of Vault, Vault is very popular in reviews, as Indeed and others are as well. So I would encourage you to take a look at Vault. And one unique aspect about them is they talk about career advancement, as well as the industry rating. They also give salary and benefits. And if you're looking and thinking, well, Glassdoor, that's the one I'm most familiar with. Well, yes, Glassdoor is on the list. And this is Glassdoor. Notice the difference between what Indeed and Vault and Glassdoor offers. Now, keep in mind, if you don't know this, Indeed and Glassdoor are owned by a parent company, but they operate independently. And they have similar ways that they go about gathering this information and packaging it. Nonetheless, their display is a little bit different. So as you can see here, they also have a recommend the company to a friend scale. That's unique, that's different, as well as a CEO approval rating scale. So, and that's from 0 to 100%. If the CEO approval rating is very low, well, that might be a cause for pause there. So take a look at these, use multiple sources. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to you whether or not you are going to be able to make an informed decision based off the information that you've gathered. Now that you've taken a look at the online review sites, try and learn a little bit about the business operation. How does this company make money? Who buys their products and services, and are they highly recommended? So look at the clients, associations that they are involved in, affiliates. Are they subsidiaries to a larger company? What about their competitors? What's that competition like? How do they stack up to their competitors? And then, of course, vendors. So you might know a vendor that works with this organization, and then you can connect with that those individuals and learn a little bit more about how that organization operates. Check out the organization's social media presence. Undoubtedly, they'll probably be on LinkedIn as their official company professional presence on that site, but they may have different footprints in Facebook, which will show a different side of them, and Twitter, as well as Instagram. They might be on Instagram, they might be on Quora, they might be on TikTok. So there could be a number of social media platforms that they are on. Get a sense of what type of information that they are promoting on these sites. So speaking of LinkedIn, you'll definitely want to research the individuals in the company, primarily if it's an on-site location that you're applying to or you want to apply to, individuals at that site, as well as departments. You're looking for commonality in the backgrounds and relatable information that if you do speak to one of these individuals, then you'll be able to have something to actually talk about. So look at their career trajectories, educational histories, Are they part of any groups or affiliations that you might be a part of, memberships, et cetera, et cetera? And past employers, you never know. You might have worked at a company previously that they worked at as well. So these are all notable items that will help your research and help you in the interview and help you decide on what's going to be a good fit for you. From here, when you use that company information and plug it into the salary research site that you are using, and I would advise everybody to use multiple sites because you'll get varying differences in your salaries, and you can adjust that based off of a blended salary research approach. But having the job titles as well as the size of that company is going to be golden, because if you're researching a company that is the size of 300 employees versus a company that's 3,000, well, that's going to be a difference in the amount of salary just based off the revenue of the larger companies. Even though it might be the same job that both companies perform, more than likely the larger company is going to pay a slightly higher in salary and may have a slightly more robust benefits package. And that's just due to the size. So having that information is going to be golden for your salary research. Also, pay differentials if you are shift work or work weekends or have hazardous duties in that particular job. Knowing that information will help out in gaining that salary data. And then expand into the news and recent events, trying to look and see if there's anything notable, good or bad, that you may want to take interest. The idea behind this is to understand a little bit more about that current state of that company. Did they develop a new product that just hit the market? What are those reviews, et cetera, et cetera? Are there any red flags? In other words, was there a recall of any of their products, et cetera, et cetera? Some organizations, if they're really, really small, might not necessarily show up in the news in that way, but you can always check the Chamber of Commerce or the Better Business Bureau. Now, not every company is required to be registered with the Better Business Bureau, but I'd still give them a check to see if there's anything on those sites. From here, I would definitely encourage everyone to look into doing informational interviews. Informational interviews are one of the most underutilized job search tactics that most people, most job seekers do, or don't do, should I say. And we are going to have a future Tuesday talk that really talks about informational interviews as well as other tactics to gain that information that you are looking for in those organizations, as well as building relationships with hiring managers, which is great for your networking, getting that insider information about the fields and the careers. It can also give you a little bit of an awareness of future opportunities at that organization. If the organization is expanding in a couple of months, well, that's inside information that others don't have. And you could possibly work by networking your way into one of those newly open positions. And then, of course, you get a feel for the organization's culture. If you get the tour, you know, are people walking around? Are they smiling? Are they talking to one another? Or is it a cubicle farm where everybody's, you know, locked in their own 3x3 cubicle and nobody really talks to one another because they have their head down at their desk and they're just working, grinding it out? That's where informational interviews are really beneficial, is to get a sense of what that work environment at that company is like. Then dig into those online reviews again. Analyzing these can definitely give you a little bit of insight, but you have to be cautious on how you do this. So when you're looking at these reviews, if there's a pattern or a common theme, it could reflect that that is an undesirable company. Keep in mind that disgruntled employees are more likely to post negative things about the companies. Individuals that are displeased are more likely to be outspoken than those that are happy and satisfied. And then see what their reputation is like on customer review sites as well. If it's kind of supported that, that the company is getting some negative consumer reviews, well, that could be an indication of that environment as well. And then, of course, use information from multiple sources that gives you kind of a well-rounded picture. So just don't take Indeed or Glassdoor's, go look at Vault or any of the other sites as well. And once you have all that information and you make it to the interview, please be careful how you convey that information. You have to be strategic about the information that you share from your research in an interview. Use the information to link your knowledge, skills, and abilities and your experience to the job. And then formulate well-prepared answers to answer questions about that company. And resist bringing up sensitive information that you may have uncovered in your research. Lastly, let the information inform you and guide your decision whether or not that company is a good fit for you. And then you can have a good decision-making process. Some key takeaways that we can come away with from this session: start with a needs assessment to determine what our interests, our work personalities, and our values are, and make sure those align with that organization that we're researching. So you want to check the official website, dive into those Google results, as well as the social media presence of that organization. Stick with the public information. Don't take a investigative dive into the information, because you're only you're really wasting your time in that. The general information, the public information, is going to be most useful to you. And then, of course, use multiple sources in analyzing those reviews, and that should give you enough information to make an informed decision about whether or not that organization is going to be suited for your needs. That brings us to the conclusion of today's Tuesday Talk. Here's my contact information if you have any questions or you'd like to schedule some time to speak with me. I appreciate everyone's time and attention. Remember, connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and share your thoughts and opinions on your experience too. If you watch this on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of any new videos that are released. And share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Until next time, farewell.